So like many other people, I have been rereading the Hunger Games trilogy because it has kind of a renaissance on social media lately. I feel like a lot more people are talking about the series again and talking about how great it is. So I wanted to join in the fun. I had plans to reread the series before everything on social media, but I was pushed it back. But then everything on social media really inspired me to do it. I picked up the books from the library and reread them. And I can truly see why the Hunger Games is superior to all the other imitators that came after its success. Because if you weren't there, man, like from 2010, 2015, it seemed like every YA book was like this dystopian future with like a suppressive regime. People are separated by groups, and then you have one protagonist above it all who's gonna rebel. And Hunger Games is like the only one, at least for me, that has stood the test of time. Tell me if there is another good one, because the other one I became super successful afterwards was like Divergent, and I enjoyed the first book fine, and then the other books after that, I think I read half of book 2, didn't even bother with book 3. So yeah, tell me if there is another good YA dystopian book that came out like around or after the Hunger Games success, and tell me if it's any good. But this video isn't about that, this video is about the Hunger Games and what I liked about the series. I'm also going to talk about the movies, and because so many people are talking about it, I'm going to talk about some of the takes I've seen around that I found a bit questionable. Anyways, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the main character of the series, which is Katniss Everdeen. I think she's the most misunderstood character when it comes to the imitators that came after the series came out, and also a misunderstood character in the fandom in general, especially early day fandoms. I seem like a lot of people didn't like her, but we'll get into it. Because I feel like when it comes to the imitators that came after the Hunger Games, I think a lot of people misunderstood what made her a very good protagonist, because they just kind of like, oh yeah, she's like this cool strong female character who can shoot with a bow and arrow, and she's like a rebel or whatever, and she's a cool chosen one. And the thing is that very important with the Hunger Games is that Katniss isn't the chosen one. She is a teenage girl that got wrapped up in this whole rebellion or revolution kind of against her will, which I think is very important. Like, she's only in this rebellion because she wanted to save her baby sister. That's like, I think it's also very important, and I think I really like about the Hunger Games is that Katniss isn't the person who starts the rebellion. The rebellion seems to have been going on for years. This isn't something that just came out, that just started because Katniss rebelled against the Capitol in her games. It has been going on for years because the regime is oppressive and etc, etc, etc. I also think that's very important with Katniss as a protagonist is that a lot of her success, especially surviving in the first game, has a lot to do with other people and kind of just straight up luck. And I mean it in like a positive way. Like if Prim wasn't reaped and Katniss hadn't like volunteered for her, if it was just that Katniss got reaped instead, she wouldn't get the attention that she gets. Like, if that didn't happen, she would have just been another poor District 12 kid as every previous ones that came before her. It's also why I particularly hate this whole new take that people are like, oh, Prim was chosen to be reaped because President Snow saw Katniss as a threat from the start. I'm sorry, President Snow did not know about this girl's existence until that reaping, and she screamed, I volunteer as tribute. Like, do I think some of the reapings are rigged? Sure, I can buy into it. I definitely think that because the books mentioned that a lot of children of previous victors seems to get into the games kind of too many times for it to just be like a coincidence. But I don't think Prim was intentionally reaped. It just kind of to show how cruel the Capitol is, that this poor innocent child, the first time she's ever reaped, she only has her name in there once, gets picked. So yeah, I don't think it was rigged at all. I don't know what this take came from. Also, like, if Snow really thought that Katniss was that much of a threat, he would have just had her get reaped. As I said, her volunteering for her sister was what made her stand out from the beginning. I also think like the biggest argument against Prim's reaping being intentional is Peeta. Like, if we assume that Peeta has never taken out a tariff because his family is wealthy enough to have food and he has older brothers, so his name is potentially only there 5 times compared to Gale's 42 times. Like, the whole point is that Panem's punishment is random and cruel, and that's the whole point. Do I think that sometimes the Hunger Games is rigged? Sure, of course, sometimes. So, and it's rigged in a way that, of course, children from poorer families are more likely to get picked, which adds to the cruelty of it all. But overall, I think most reapings are quote-unquote random. And I just had to rant about this because I have seen this theory going around and I hate it. I hate it so much. It just completely misses the point of the story and Katniss as a character. But anyways, her volunteering is like a very big reason why she gets like a lot of attention and support in the beginning, even before the games start. Like Cinna intentionally chose to be her stylist because he thought what she did was brave. And of course, I've seen some theories that how involved were Cinna in the rebellion or whatever. I'm gonna get into it right now. But like, Cinna makes her not look like an idiot on the opening ceremony and gets like this super cool nickname, the girl on fire. Like, she could have been done dirty, like these poor kids. I can see if like District 8 was one of the first ones to rebel, because what the hell are those outfits? I'm pretty sure both of them die on like the first day. Oh, the Hunger Games is dark. You also have Peeta crafting this like narrative around for her to get more support in the games. Because there's nothing more powerful in the world than shippers and their need for the ship to happen. You also have Rue, Madge, her dad, Haymitch, and so many other people helping Katniss to succeed. I feel like that's also important. Like, Katniss isn't the only one who starts the rebellion. She's the figurehead for the revolution. Because she's just a teenager at the end of the day with the world on her shoulder. I know a lot of people were disappointed with how quote-unquote little Katniss had to do for the Capitol and President Snow's defeat in Mockingjay, but I think that's kind of the whole point. The rebellion was bound to happen no matter what. Especially with how many previous winners were in on the plan for the revolution in Catching Fires. You have the winners from 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 11 in on the plan to help the revolution. That's not something that just happens because, oh wow, yeah, we really thought what Katniss did in the previous game were like super cool, you guys. We will totally sacrifice our lives and to save her from the arena. They're all fucking pissed at the Capitol. And I think that's just, I feel like I'm such a contrarian because I feel like every time I really love a Chosen One story is when they deconstruct a Chosen One story. If you play a Chosen One story straight, I don't like your story. I'm kidding. But you have to do something interesting with that narrative because I feel like unless if you wrote your story 1,500 years ago, I'll give you a pass. But if not, do something interesting with the Chosen One narrative because I don't. Anyways, another character I have to talk about is Peeta. My man Peeta. Truly my favorite character when I was rereading the books. Katniss and Peeta. I was surprised for how invested I was in these two when reading because I usually don't care for romance when reading books, especially like main girl, main boy romances. I usually don't care for those. And but these two, I was like very invested. I just really loved their relationship and their story, and it was just. But Peeta is such a good character. Like, usually my fave characters are usually more villains or morally gray characters. Those are usually the characters I gravitate towards the most. But a character who's just kind and loving, no matter how cruel the world is, just hits different sometimes. I guess COVID changed me a bit. Here are other characters that fits this narrative, this as well. I also love how immediately he knows how to play the games, because I feel like he's one of the few players, at least in the 74th game, that was like, okay guys, this isn't just a survival game, this is reality TV. Like his interviews for the games, iconic. Him going, oh, she came here with me. And if it wasn't for the baby, iconic. Peter was truly my fave when I was rereading these books. I honestly love the change in the movie that Katniss got to see Peeta's drawing of Rue before she did like her assessment stuff in Catching Fire. I love that change. I wish that was in the book, because I was surprised that wasn't in the book. I was like, oh, I thought I was in the book. Did I forget something? I also just love how much they both inspire each other. Like, it just breaks my heart that Katniss gives her like so little credit at times. And not in like the usual YA way, it's like, oh, I'm just this plain looking boring girl and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, Katniss isn't like that. She's like, oh man, I'm so selfish and cruel at times. And she really is. Like, they're both like they're both very kind people at the end of the day. And their relationship is so good. How was anyone on Team Gale is my question. I guess I can talk about Gale as well. So we have Gale. Okay, Gale is a complicated character in a way that I both understand him as a character. I understand where he's coming from, and he's an important character to get the message across. Like, his reaction to capital suppression is honestly something that's way more realistic than people would give him credit for. But also, a lot of the times when I was reading the books, I just kind of, and every time there was a scene with him, I sometimes want to, oh my god, Gale, just shut the fuck up. Like, when he's pressed over the fact that Katniss faked a romance story to survive, my boy, what the hell? Gale is like, I understand his character, and honestly some of the hate for him makes me defend him a bit when people are like, Gale hasn't gone through anything bad in his life. Oh yeah, because his dad dying when he was young, no effect. Him having to provide for himself, his like 4 younger sibling, and his mom at like age 13 or 12, I think. That has no effect on a guy. Him having to watch his best friend's younger sister be raped and then having to see her go to the capital, and there's a very good chance that she won't survive. No effect. Him having to witness his entire hometown get bombed into oblivion, and him having to live with the fact that he couldn't save more people. No effect on the guy. I don't see why people are meaning that he has no reason to be mad or angry at anyone. But yeah, so I have similar feelings about him as I do Marcus from Arcane. Everything about their character makes sense. I think it's important to not just dismiss the character because they add something new to the themes or prop up other characters in the story. And they are very, very far from being the worst people in their respective stories. And they are very human characters at their core. But also most of the themes that has both of them, like Gale or Marcus in them, just makes me go, shut up. I can analyze a character I don't like and understand their point, unlike certain other people in fandoms. Also, because I've been rereading the books, I also rewatched the movies. Pretty good movies that are, for the most part, very good adaptations as well. Most of them follow the entire plot from the books. Most of them have most of the major story beats, and like, there exists worse adaptation out there. I think my biggest issue with the movies is that they kind of don't fully show the harshness and cruelty of the capital and the games in general. Also, hunger isn't really that big of a part of the story anymore. Like starving to death was like a very big threat throughout most of the story. And dehydration, but it doesn't really seem to come up that much in the game. But also, I don't want the movie makers to starve and dehydrate the actors to be authentic like other movies, because unlike the capital, I don't want real people to suffer because of my entertainment. It's kind of mixed when it comes to actually hiring teenage actors playing in the roles, because most of the deaths in like the 74th game that hit was the one that actually looked like children. Like the random District 4 boy has no lines. It's horrible to see him be terrified and then gets killed off. But I totally understand why they didn't hire teenagers to play the main characters, because there's like a lot of different reasons. Like, most teenagers are at school, and also usually older actors have more authenticity in their performance, and you don't want to overwork young actors, and blah 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 blah. So you know what, I'm fine with the movies not doing those things, but also other issue I had with the movie is that I wish they didn't remove Peter's disability in the later books, because in the first game he lost his leg, and I wish they didn't remove that because it adds a lot. It also just shows how cruel these games are. Like, you don't get to go away from them with nothing. I also feel like the movies didn't really show that with also the other previous winners in Catching Fire as well. A lot of them, they don't really show that. Like Chef, he lost his hand and you can't see it in the movie, but it's kind of like a blink and you miss it moment, honestly, to see like he doesn't have a hand anymore. I also like the movies, it kind of seems like they imply that the morphlings are nicknamed the morphlings because they're good at camouflage, you know, like they're good at like, morphing into their environment. But no, in the books it's very clear they're nicknamed that because they're drug addicts. I feel like it's a cruel nickname, Katniss. Why would you call it? Like it has a point to it, but still. I think that was the third biggest issue I have with the movies is that I really don't see the point of splitting Mockingjay into a part 1 and part 2. Like, the books were long enough, like, Hunger Games and Catching Fire didn't have to cut out so much to fit into, like a 2-hour-long movie. So I don't really see why they thought, like, Mockingjay had to do that as well, because Mockingjay it's not bad, it's not a bad book, I enjoyed reading it, but like especially the start is kind of like a bit like the slow build up, so when you watch the movie it's like this slow ass build up to the next part, and because in the books it's like not that thrilling how they save Peeta and the rest of the victors. Like in the movie it's like, oh man, they're like going in, we have like their feed, we don't. And then suddenly President Snow comes in. It's like, don't you know? Like, I knew that your friends are at the Victory Center or whatever. And like you have like this moment like, oh my god, we're gonna lose both Peeta and the other one. No. And then they come back. In the book it was like, Hamish comes like, Katniss, they're going to save Peeta and the others. Next chapter, Katniss, they're back. I feel like they added a bit more excitement, but it's like you didn't need to add those things if you just had one movie. Yeah, so I don't see, like, the only reason I can see them doing it is because money. I still like parts of Mockingjay Part and Part 2, but yeah. I also feel like if they were to make a more authentic adaptation of the Hunger Games, it needed to be R-rated, because censorship and age rating laws with US movies are whack in my opinion, but that's a rant for another day. But I would have also been like a stupid ass decision from the filmmakers if they decided to go for an R-rated, because at the time when the movie came out, their main target was going to be teenagers, and it would be a very stupid decision to make a movie that they couldn't even see in the cinema without like their parents present. So my suggestion to get an authentic Hunger Games adaptation, not adaptation, but stories from Panem and the games in general, is that you have an anthology series. You can have a story per episode with new characters, and maybe like an episode per game. I think that would be cool, but that's my suggestion. So here are some of the previous games I would like to see in this anthology series. Number 1 is very obvious choice, and that is Hamish's game. It was the previous quarter quell where it was double the players. I think everyone was a bit disappointed it didn't add those in the movie where like Katniss and Peeta watches the previous games, and that includes Hamish's game. That wasn't in the movie. Very disappointing. I think this is the most obvious thing to do for like this anthology series I propose. I don't need as much as others because we already know what happened in those games, but I guess it's fun to have it like visually. So neat. Number 2, speaking of quarter quells, I think it will be also neat to see the first quarter quell, because if you don't remember, the first quarter quell had it, so the district voted for who would be in the arena. We know nothing about these games except for this. I think it would be interesting if the winner of those games were like a winner that got voted into the arena, not like a career district where they voted them in because it was like, oh yeah, Jimmy's going to win the games, but because they wanted that player to die. Because I can't imagine returning home from those games and wanting to, like, I think it would be an interesting story. I want to see the first quarter quell and how that happened. I think it would just be a neat story to follow someone who got voted in because people wanted them to be in the games because they wanted them to die in there. I think it would be fun. Not fun. It would be very, very sad and very dark as well. Number 3, this one isn't like a specific game, but I think it would be an interesting story if you follow a character throughout the entire episode. And you obviously, it's like, they're the main characters, so you obviously think they're going to win, but then psych, they come in second. I think it would be a great emotional gut punch. An episode like that, especially if you got like super invested in them. Like having like a super sad backstory to why they're in the game and like they have so much return to home. I think it would just be a massive emotional gut punch and like show how cruel these games are. Anyways, number 4 is Mags's game. Mag is one of the earlier winners and she won the game that happened after Battle of the Songbirds and Snakes. I haven't got around to read that book yet, but I think it would be nice to see her in her younger years, and also I'm pretty sure like her Hunger Games was like the first proper Hunger Games, quote unquote, where it was like in this massive outdoor arena and wasn't like in this small amphitheater like stadium where the games lasted for like hours instead of days and weeks. I think it would be neat. I would love to see just more of Mag. Number 5 is Virus because we know nothing about her game. It's not mentioned in either books or movies how she won. And I'm always a sucker for stories where you have like a very smart character outsmarting everyone to win in the end, and I think Virus' story would be that sort of story. I also think we can have more about BT if we have a story like that, because he was most likely her mentor. And I would just think it was neat. I would like to see more of these too. Number 6, this one is super self-indulgent, but I would like to know more about the Morphlings from District 6. So one of their games would be neat. I just want to know their names, man. But also I'm willing to accept Christian Blanco's version of their games as canon because I really enjoyed those. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, you should. It is very fun. I've been listening to them while I'm working. So yeah, I really enjoy his stories. Like the Morphlings' game are some of my fave he has done for the series. Honestly, all of the District 6 winners in his Hunger Games series is top tier winners. I love all of them. District 6 for the win, man. So yeah, there's also here is like miscellaneous list of other games that would probably be neat to see. I just think this anthology series would have potential. I would watch it. I guess I'm no better than the Capitol, but who knows. Anyways, I tried to do something new for this video. I just talk about a topic for a while because I just enjoy talking about my interest for several hours if I can. Also, these videos are a lot easier to make, so maybe I can like have a more regular schedule making these videos if I have like a video once in a while where I just sort of talk about something else, because then I don't have to make multiple drawings and such. Whatever. because next video I'm going to make is going to be a character design video for a different book series, so look forward to that. Anyways, have a good week forwards and bye!